Hey guys, Tim Wilson from Tim Wilson UK here, and welcome back to the Golf Club 2. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and for those of you that have been following my channel for quite a while now, even back from the early access on PC days, you'll know that I did a Meet the Creator series, and that is probably about 5 years ago that was out, and I'm going to be returning to that today, and I'm joined by a creator that creates on the PS4 and plays on the PS4, and most of you will know him as I know him, and that is as cathalos1991, and he joins me right now. So if you want to just say hi, and for all those people out there that are questioning how to pronounce your name, myself being one of them, if you'd like to just say your name and pronounce it as it's supposed to be said.
Yeah, no bother at all, Tim. How you doing? So my name is Cathal. For anybody who's not Irish, the easiest way to pronounce that is caw, like it's in a crow cause, or a crow cause. Yeah, that's right. And hill, so Cahill. So it's just the easiest way to do it. If that doesn't work for you, Charlie, Charles, Carl, whatever you want to go with, whatever works. Not a bother. I've been called worse.
Okay, great. So yeah, welcome to the stream. Well, the recording, and what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be choosing one of Cahill's courses. So I'm just going to jump straight into the screen where I'm looking at some of my previously played courses. So let's go into my favourites list, because I've probably got one of, or more than one of your courses in here. So let me just see if I can find one. Just give me 1 second, and then we'll just go through.
All of them in there.
I should have all of them in there. You know what? I'm actually a bit of a bugger for that. I really do at the end of the round try and knock it on the head quite quickly, because when I'm recording a round, I do tend to. I'm conscious of the time that it takes to record a video and post it up online.
Yeah.
So there we go. I found one here. So I do. I always forget to rate it, and I always forget to add it as a favourite. So the one that I actually played earlier this week, Druids Glen Golf Club, is the one that I've got on here. But I'm going to go onto the more by designer page, and we're going to view the courses. So for those of you that can't hear from Cahill's accent, he's Irish. Whereabouts in Ireland are you?
So I'm in the southwest coast, so just outside of Shannon. I'm sure people are familiar with Shannon Airport and stuff like that. So yeah, down the southwest coast. If anyone's been to Ireland, the Cliffs of Moher, that kind of thing, not too far away from me. So that's
okay.
Where I'm based in Ireland. And
some good golf courses around your neck of the woods?
Yeah, absolutely. There's Doonbeg actually, which I saw you did a video the other day. Lahinch Golf Club, so that's an Alistair Mackenzie design. So that's that'll be one of the bigger ones in the area. Then kind of if you head a bit south into Kerry, we're looking at the likes of Ballybunion, Old Head, which are actually two courses that I've done in the game. So those would be very big courses, and then up the other side of the country, then you've obviously got like the likes of Royal County Down, Portrush, and so on. But they're quite a trek away, at least 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
But down this side, we definitely do have plenty of golf courses down here.
Yeah, there's some cracking courses in Ireland. And do you play golf yourself?
Yeah, I've been playing since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, really.
Yeah.
Which is a very Irish saying. If nobody understands what that means, very, very sorry.
Since he was a young lad, let's put it that way, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'll hear some of these random phrases come out, and if you don't get it, just go with it.
Okay, so, I mean, you're big on real course recreations. Any particular reason why you went down that route? Because I know some people do... you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but the time and effort that goes into a real course creation must be immensely more than something that you make up on your own.
Yeah, definitely. Like doing something that I suppose you're replicating from real life requires a huge amount of commitment to making sure the accuracy of it is right. Like with just going with the fantasy side or just making it up in your head kind of thing, it doesn't require as much of that, I suppose, of that kind of attention in terms of that, because again, you're just working off a blank canvas in your head. Not to down anyone who does fantasy courses.
Sure, yeah.
Like that. When you're obviously replicating something from real life, you need to make sure it looks exactly like that. Now at the start, I can honestly say I wasn't that focused on it. Some of my earlier work isn't the greatest, but I suppose as we got on and I learned a bit more about the designer and stuff like that, it definitely got an awful lot easier. So therefore, it was easier to commit to the long-term goals of actually doing a really, really good version of the course.
Yeah, because I mean things like you know, bunkers in relation to fairways, in relation to greens and water and tree locations and planting and all of that kind of stuff. It must take an awful lot longer.
Yeah, it definitely does. And just like even this morning, like I'm working on Wentworth at the moment, and there's the fourth hole, which is that dogleg par 5, and it's just trying to make sure that the height of the trees and stuff like that matches up, and just those small little things that you kind of take for granted. Now, I mean, there's people out there who are not too bothered about getting it that accurate, and you know, fair play to them. I mean, that's what they want to do, absolutely. But then there's
Yeah,
the other ones who really, really want to make sure that it kind of, it's essentially them playing it, but it's on a video game, and it
yeah.
looks pretty much real life. So, I mean, depending on your process, but yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of attention to detail. There's so many designers out there that, gives like months and months of their time just to make sure, everything looks as it should.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking through your course list here, and am I correct in saying that Druids Glen Golf Club 2017 was your very first um, PlayStation 4 creation?
Absolutely. So that was my first one. I thought it was good at the time, until I came back to it about 2 months after doing it and realized that, oh, that's actually really bad, and I needed to top that up a little bit and just fix a few things and sculpt a few things, because as I said, as you go on, you pick up more tips from the other guys out there and stuff like that, and you're like, okay, I can bring that into it and change this and change that, and you know there's all that kind of thing as you go on. But that was definitely my first one. And then I did Adair Manor as well. So Adair would actually be relatively close to me. It's about 40 minutes away.
It's north of you, isn't it?
No, it's actually south.
Oh, is it south? Is it? Because
It's just
that's a
south
big
of me.
old it's a big old sort of castle type country house, isn't it, with a golf course and a spa and all sorts there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they closed it down for about 2.5 years for renovation. JP McManus has put, I think it was 70 million into it, completely changed it, and they've just put in a bid for the Ryder Cup. So I'm looking forward to changing that up for TGC 2019. I'm going to leave it
Oh,
alone till
nice.
then.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some changes. It's very Augusta-like. I think is his name, Tom Fazio is his name. He's the designer who I suppose you'd know most for the Firestone South course.
Yeah.
So where the Bridgestone Invitational is on, he was brought in to make these changes. They have the sand from Augusta. It's got a very, very Augusta feel, which looks really, really cool.
Nice, nice. All right, let's jump into a round now. Obviously, these are all your courses, so I must admit I've probably played most of them. I don't think I've played. Is it Cran-sur-Sierre?
It's Cran-sur-Sierre, and actually I have one thing to say on that, is that all those courses are not actually all the courses I have. When TGC 1 came about, I created a second profile because the game came out in the States about a month or two before it came out here. So obviously went ahead and downloaded it through there. But when the game had its issues a couple of months ago, I started working on a course on that profile. So I actually have another course that isn't appearing here that I was thinking we could play today.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm going to have to search for it because it's not going to come up in this course list. That's perfectly fine. That's actually quite nice, and that's probably one that not a lot of people have then come across or wouldn't associate with you unless they know that you created it. So, all right.
Exactly.
All right, what am I looking for then?
So what we're looking for is Ballybunion. If you want, what I can do is I can actually just start, click into it, and it should appear up on your screen.
Okay.
You can do it that way if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Let me just grab that there. And perfect. There we go. And Okay, so I've just started that there, just loading the screen at the moment.
Okay, that should pop up on my screen and I should be able to join that round. So I suppose one of the first questions I'm always intrigued when I talk to creators is, where do you start? What's the very first thing you start with? Because I would imagine you could build a course and then change the theme at any point to suit the course, really. But do you start with a blank canvas, or do you start with the hills and the water, or do you put the layout down first? What's your thought process?
For me, the first thing I do is I go in and I just empty everything, get rid of everything. It's completely blank canvas, flatten the golf course, and I tend to actually raise the level of the ground up about maybe 50 feet or something, depending on the course that I'm working with, that I might have to, change about with elevations and stuff like that throughout the course. So it just gives me a bit of margin for error. So the first thing I do is basically just empty the course. From there, it's just making sure that the theme I've chosen is actually the correct theme for what I'm looking to do. So if it's a links course, that's pretty straightforward. I can just go into the Highlands theme and work away. But for something like the Emirates, which I did recently, I think there was 3 themes that I could actually choose. I think we had the tropical, the desert, and the steppe theme. So it actually became a bit of a journey trying to actually decide on which one, because with the Emirates I needed to have specific type of trees, and I had to make sure that the theme I was going to use covered that deserty type, but also kind of gave me that option to have those trees and stuff like that in there. Not all themes do that.
So if you choose a theme that has a specific type of tree, because I know the trees are locked to the theme, if you change the theme, does it drop all the trees out?
What it does is like each theme has a corresponding tree. So
So it swaps it out.
Yeah, so what could be an oak in one theme could be a different type of oak in another, or it could be a pine if it's
I get you.
the alpine theme and stuff like that.
Okay,
so I'm
cool.
On the course there, and
I'm on the first tee as well. I can see you on there. Forgive me, but is that a graveyard?
Yes, that's a graveyard. That graveyard has been there for. I actually looked this up when I was building it. It's been there since like the early Christian days. Like it's old.
Wow. Interesting. And all of those buildings on the right-hand side?
They are they're essentially sheds, but they're made to look like a caravan park.
Oh, okay.
So like the holiday homes and stuff like that.
Cool. All right. Shall we? So this is a links course, yes?
Yeah, so this is a links course. This is the one I was actually on about earlier, Ballybunion. That's down in the coast of Kerry, so it's a small little coastal town. The reason why I went for something like this was, it was one of the first Irish Opens that I'd been to, so it's just having those kind of memories as a kid and stuff like that, and getting to see all the great players and stuff play there. I just wanted to bring that to the game.
And looks like quite a lot of, even though it's a links course, there's quite a lot of, looks like quite a lot of change in elevation on some of the holes as well.
Yeah, there is a bit in places, which is it's kind of a quite familiar trait in Irish links courses, that there is quite a substantial amount of elevation. Now, it doesn't happen too often. I think it's the 17th hole is quite substantial, and then you have maybe the third hole as well. But other than that, it does actually keep it quite close to the ground, for a better word.
Okay, all right. So, with regards to your references, what do you use to get all of the information? I mean, what are your sources for all your information?
So yeah, that with that, I suppose it just all depends on the course, and some course will have quite a good bit of information on their actual club website themselves. Like Ballybunion, thankfully have Ooh, that's a nice shot. Ballybunion have their own kind of flyovers and stuff like that actually on their website, so that was handy for basically looking at where certain things are positioned. And I just did a fast swing. Ooh, we'll get away with it.
Yeah, fast,
But
slow, they normally cancel one another out, so you shouldn't be too bad with that.
it's not too bad. 21 feet. But yeah, so they had their own flyovers and stuff like that, which was handy for sculpting and things like that. Outside of that, then you're looking at the likes of Google Earth Pro, which will basically give you all the distances from your tee to green, bunkers, everything like that.
Okay,
If I
I didn't
find
know that. I didn't know that. So that is that a paid service then, Google Earth Pro?
no, that's absolutely free. You
Oh, is
can just
it?
go ahead and yeah,
And
just
zoom in and actually put markers down and measure the distances.
absolutely. But like, I mean, you don't have to go to that much detail if you don't want to. I mean, if you don't want to have a computer sitting beside you while you're trying to do it on a PlayStation or an Xbox, but if you're doing it on PC, then it just works out perfectly.
Yeah,
Um, you can like, there's plenty of apps out there. There's 18 birdies. There's Blue Golf. There's quite a few of them
yeah.
that are perfect, and they give you pretty much they pull all their information from Google Earth as well, so you have it all there on your phone.
Okay. And I take it you're pretty conscious around the waypoints when you're creating as well, because that has, you probably noticed in some of the videos, it's quite frustrating when the waypoints don't correspond to the club that you should be using for the distance that you have to hit.
Yeah, that was something that you probably noticed it came up a bit in I think it was the old head, where it was actually given pitching wedges and stuff like that. Now, it didn't come up like that in test mode, but what had happened was when I was doing some last minute changes and stuff like that, um, I ended up bringing the rough into play. So what was happening is it was looking for the nearest fairway, and that happened to be a pitching wedge away, as opposed to being,
Ah, I
a
see.
driver or a three wood. So, small things like that can, I suppose, if you don't give it your 100% attention, can slip in under the radar. And like, that's one that I'm constantly watching for now after that happening with the old head.
So, just looking at this particular hole,
Hmm.
I take it bunker layout, bunker size, bunker depth, yardages, and all of those kind of things. Are they one of the things that you pay the most attention to detail on?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I suppose when I'm building a hole and stuff like that, like yardage is like, it's massive. I mean, so we'll take this fairway for example. When I'm laying this out, I'll have the go to the sculpt tool, and you have the option to measure. So what I'll do is, from the tee box, I will literally measure to the start of the fairway, and then from there, then you'll measure to each specific point on the actual fairway. So where the fairway bends, everything, and from that, then with those specific yardages, then you'll be able to basically bring that fairway to life, and then from there, then you can use those same again, use that measuring tool, and you're picking out the bunkers and everything like that. So it is massive to get that right. Now, sometimes with RCRs, it doesn't actually translate properly into the game, because the course itself will be set up for real life conditions where players will hit the ball a certain length. So here it works perfectly, because we could have went into any one of those bunkers, but sometimes you could hit the ball 50, 60 yards past the bunker, and you kind of wonder why it's there in the first place.
Yeah. So I suppose that leads on nicely to the next question. I mean, at the back of this green, you have what looks like, it looks like stone that sits at the back of this green with sort of like heather or gorse bushes around it.
Hmm.
Do you actually create that stone look, or is that just created when the landscape is changed?
Yeah, so what happens with that is an awful lot of that is literally just down through sculpting, so raising up the ground in certain areas. And what I find is that, like, I could have easily went over that and placed in certain rough and stuff like that in there. But I think what happens is sometimes it can just make the course look too green, or too much like a video game.
Too
So I think
artificial,
having
effectively. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I find that having that kind of rustic feel to it gives it that, kind of brings it to life a little bit. if that
Cool.
makes sense.
So what's the average length in time that it takes you to create a course like the one we're playing right now?
It could be, I suppose, in terms of hours put into it, it could be anywhere from 150 to 200 hours minimum.
Wow. Okay. I mean, and
So
that's the proof's in the pudding, though. Really. I mean, because you can see, and I suppose, I mean, for me, I can appreciate a golf course because I play golf, but people that don't play golf will probably just see this as another course in the golf club, you know, in the video game. So it only puts it into perspective when you say, you know, you spend between 150 and 200 hours doing this, when other people can churn out the fantasy courses in maybe 20 hours at the most. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is telling.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just, yeah, like you said, you know, when you send out a fantasy course, you know what, like you'll have an idea how the hole's going to go. Now, unless you want to get really, really specific and like make sure everything is just like if you're going into it with a plan, then I suppose it can take a little bit longer. But um, with the RCRs, it's just if you do want it to look at it, it's a huge time commitment to it. And there's some guys that even spend more time than that. Some guys could take um, maybe 300 hours over the course of 3 months just to pull a golf course together.
Wow. And have you sort of have you collaborated with any other creators on the game?
No, actually, I've it's something that I suppose I've wanted to try to do, but nothing that I've actually done before. Simply because most of the courses I want to do are, you know, they're Irish courses or UK courses. I An awful lot of the guys who design are very much kind of US based, and it's all very American courses. Now, again, nothing wrong with that, but it's just I think the game was a little oversaturated with them, and that's why I wanted to bring more of these kind of Irish European courses to kind of, you know, well, we're not all from America. We all want to play
Yeah.
some courses on this side of the pond. So that's kind of my reason for that, and you know, it's kind of me on my my own at the moment. But you know, we'll see. I'm definitely up for the opportunity to collaborate with someone on one. So if anyone is watching this that designs, hit me up, and definitely look forward to it.
So do you only create on the PS4 or do you create on PC as well?
Just PS4.
Okay. Because
Just handier.
I know for collaboration purposes you can actually extract the file, and
Yeah.
because I know very early on in the Golf Club 1 we did a collaboration between there wasn't exactly 18 people, but we each did a hole, and then we would save the file and give it to the next person, and then they would do their bit, and then so on and so forth. And we created an 18-hole course with 18 different people creating. I think there were a couple of holes that two people or one person created 2 holes, but that was all done on the PC. So I'm not entirely sure how a collaboration would work on a PS4, but it'd be good to see.
Yeah, like I do know that that Aces is actually collaborating. I'm not too sure what the course is. I think it could be could be the Memorial.
Yeah.
He's doing that with Royce, I think. So what they're doing is they've just got a Xbox profile and they're just sharing that at the moment, and that's what they're using to.
I see that.
I
That's
think
a
that
good
could be the
idea.
best way.
Yeah.
Just a heads up on this shot in here, leave it short of the hole. You don't want to go past it. Trust me on that.
Okay, because it's a downhill putt on the way back, I take it.
Yeah, and it's not a fun one.
So definitely reachable in 2.
Yeah. That's
Let's
the
see how
handy
we
thing
do.
here. I'd say there might be one par 5 that isn't reachable, but it's like if you play well and you put the ball in the right spots on the green, it's very, very easy to go around this place in at least 10, 11 under par.
So I literally thought I'd just made it up that slope, and it stopped on the top, and it's rolling all the way back down now.
I'd still rather be where you were, though.
Yeah, I see you've got yours looks like a downhill right to lefter.
Yeah, down about 4 or 5 inches, and it's just all brick. Oh, I don't even know what to do with this. I'm afraid to hit it.
I suppose that's the nice thing about creating courses that are based in Ireland is that.
Oh, I hold it.
Oh, nice one. The greens aren't as slippery as some of the US based ones. You know, they're not rock hard and they're not super fast, so they're receptive to the shots incoming, and they're rolling a little slower than they are in the States, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, the links courses would be ones that would surprise you. They can actually be very firm and very fast, that's for sure. And any of the kind of, um, I suppose we'll call them high society golf courses, the upper and more prestigious courses definitely are an awful lot firmer and can be an awful lot faster as well. Like there's a course, it's only about 15-20 minutes down the road here, and in the summer, I mean, it's crazy how fast those greens play. I mean, you could be hitting 8 iron, 9 irons into greens, and it just the ball just doesn't stop. So it does, but it is a rarity. It just in comparison to the American courses.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm standing on this tee box now, and this must be this has got to be a topic of conversation. We are playing over the green of another hole.
Yeah, we did that on the last hole too.
I didn't even realise that because I was standing on the tee and I thought, what's that red marker there? And then as I did the zooming in, I saw it was a flag for another green. So these are back-to-back par fives. This is hole number 4 and hole number 5. Similar distances, to about mid 500 yards, 550. But we're playing over the top of a green, so that must. I mean, I take it you've played this course.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so. What's the? I suppose I've got to ask the question. What's the protocol with regards to teeing off on this hole?
Duck. No, in all seriousness, in terms of golf etiquette, it's essentially the green must be clear. So, for example, if someone's teeing off, someone's on the green, it's just a case of players on the green will mark their ball, step to the side. The guys tee off over the green, and then the guys then will follow in, putt out, and it just follows that kind of motion.
Okay, all right, cool. So this is pretty much identical yardage to what I had on the previous hole. So the second shot I've got is 243 yards, which is exactly what I had on the previous hole as well.
Yeah, they are very, very similar. The only difference here, because the green is quite tricky as well, the only difference is I think it's just a little bit more of an incline. That's really the only difference.
Yeah, I did notice that. This one's 20, I've got 21 feet. But it looks like we've got a big slope off to the left, big runoff area to the... In fact, big runoff area, it's almost like this is a convex green.
Yeah.
And then there's quite a big slope just in front of the flag. So I would imagine there is a fairly flat area around the hole, but getting anywhere close is going to be tough.
Yeah, realistically, if you're short of the hole, it's not a bad shot. If you get it above it, you've just got to be that bit careful coming back down the slope. It is a bit of a testy one, and one that will make you sweat a little bit if you've, especially in real life anyway.
Yeah.
The game is not too much pressure on. That's
well,
a good shot. Yeah.
I'm under regulation, but I am a fair stretch from the hole and a long way below the hole. So are these realistic changes in elevation on these greens? Because I've got 44 feet, but there's 2 feet of elevation here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like some of these greens out here are treacherous. Like they're very, very, very slopey. And then, you'll come to another green and you're kind of going, are we still on the same golf course? This looks incredibly flat. So
yeah.
The course does kind of offer everything. Its defense mechanism is really the greens in itself, because it's not a long golf course by any means.
Oh, I managed to get it within about 4 feet, so I'm pretty pleased from 44 feet away. Did you manage to, are you on the green?
Yeah, and just over on the right hand side. I'm going to give it a go now. No idea how hard to hit this. Whoa. Oh, get up, get up, get up, get up.
So
Oh,
you
this is
say
bad.
your selection process is, I mean, you've got your sort of justification that there is a large amount of creators out there that are creating US based courses, and there's not enough creators, potentially not enough creators that are creating European courses. What
Mhm.
what prompts or what sort of floats your boat with regards to a course? I mean, what's your selection process when it comes to courses?
For me, it's pretty much it means something to me, or it has meant something to me in the past. Like Druids Glen, for example, would have been the very first Irish Open I went to as a kid. So it hosted the Irish Open from '96 to '99. So my first one as a kid was '97 when Monty won it, and it was just, I suppose, getting to experience all that as a kid. Like, it was crazy. Like, for me, like, I was so excited back then, and like, I suppose that's kind of your first introduction to golf as what would I have been, 6 years old. So it was, yeah, that it meant something. And then I suppose in '98, then David Carter winning, and then in '99 getting to see Sergio win his first professional tournament there. It had a
Fantastic.
bit of
Yeah.
significance there. So that was the reasoning for that. A couple of them. So Adair Manor, again, it's pretty local. I worked at the Irish Open where Padraig Harrington won his national title, so again, it had that kind of significance. Um, then I suppose going for something like Crown Cercier and going for the Emirates, the Crown Cercier one is mainly to do with Sevi.
Yeah.
Sevi was a massive, massive hero to my father and to myself as well. I didn't really get to see him play that much, but I suppose going up with my father introducing me to golf, it was just Sevi, 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 Sevi. And the one thing I always remember is him telling me about this shot that he played on the 18th from in the trees. Like, he was so far right off the tee on 18, it was just like he was in no man's land, apparently. And he had to come over this 8 foot wall underneath these trees, over these 60-foot pine trees, and lands it on the front of the, like, just short of the front of the green, and chips it in and wins the tournament. And you're just thinking, what the hell? So just, I suppose, hearing all that beforehand, I suppose that's what made me select that.
Yeah.
So it essentially, they've all meant something.
So what about the Emirates one then? Because that is probably the furthest removed from what you normally do, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose that one was just kind of opportunity more so than anything else. There wasn't really anything in the game that had Middle East, Dubai written all over it.
Yeah.
Um, so there was definitely I just saw the opportunity to go with that. The other side of it is that it was always a tournament that I watched. It was um, watching it with my father and my brother and stuff like that. We always watched the Dubai Desert Classic. No idea why, just absolutely loved the course.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the obvious choice in terms of how my selection process usually goes, but um, that was the reason for it. I just thought it was a spectacular golf course, and I wanted to bring it onto the game.
Yeah. So you're not tempted with the likes of the ones that are really challenging, I would imagine, from a creator's perspective, things like Wolf Creek and that kind of thing. I mean, I know it's an American course, but
Mm.
that must be an absolute nightmare to try and create something like that.
Like when you mentioned that, I actually felt like I was having pause for a second. I was like, "There's no way in hell I could do like I don't know. I'd crack up or something." That's an
Because you'd have to
intense
do it
amount of work.
justice, yeah. I mean, I know
Yeah, you
there
can't.
is Wolf Creek in here, and they're not bad, to be honest, because I've played a
Mm,
couple of them. They're not bad. Um, I mean, we're not talking the likes of as good as what they were when they were created in the Rory McIlroy version in the EA Sports
yeah,
game, but I mean, they only had a dozen courses in that game, and they were created by top designers. But I can just imagine the effort that would go into that. It must be absolutely insane.
yeah, that's it. Like, and see, the thing is when you're working with essentially nine. well, to me, looking at it, it looks like it's 90% rock. Like like in terms of getting that definition and making sure everything looks, and it's just it ups the ante in terms of the difficulty. You can get away with a certain amount when you're working with like a
Oh, get
grass
in, get
terrain, but
in.
then
Oh! It rolled around the
how did
back of
that
the
not
hole.
go in? How did that not go in?
It rolled. It literally rolled around the back of the hole. That was from 168 yards. I thought you'd played a good shot.
That's what I was thinking. I was there like, is he here trying to steal my thunder on my course?
Oh, yeah. I must admit, I am really enjoying this. So, Wentworth, you said, is the one that you're currently working on. How far are you along? Sort of hours and holes?
So I think we're creeping up on 30 hours, and we've got now they're not. I wouldn't say I've 100% kind of sealed off on them, but I've 5 holes done at the moment.
Okay. And do you do them?
So
Do you do them in order? Do you start at hole number one and methodically go through hole number one until you're completely satisfied before you move on to hole number two?
you know what? It actually changes. It depends on my mood at the time. Sometimes I'll go through, and what I'll do is I'll literally lay out each all 18 holes. Fairways are out, bunkers are out, etc. And then I will go into the sculpting process, and we'll get everything sculpted the way I wanted it to. And then I'll go into the planting phase, and then I'll polish it off, and it's done. But this time I actually decided, because I suppose with Wentworth and with just how much of an iconic course it was, I really wanted to spend an awful lot of attention on each individual hole. So I just took it one by one. Now I have, with the way it's laid out in terms of the flow of the course, it runs very like St Andrews in terms of you head out in one direction in the front line and you keep going in that direction. You hit the turn and then you're coming straight back in. So when you've got that to consider, you've got to make sure that it's actually going to fit into the plot of land that you have. I mean, you could obviously just go in and throw the holes down randomly, but it doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's kind of also part of the process, to make sure the course you're putting on actually fits. Now with Wentworth, it actually surprisingly doesn't fit, but I have a workaround for it. So what happens is there's the 12th and the 13th. I think I run out. I think it's about 100 yards is all I need, but it doesn't fit into it. So what I'm going to do is create like a dummy tee box for the 12th and a dummy green for the 13th, so it looks like it's flowing properly.
All
and
right.
then I'm going to have the 12th and 13th hole somewhere else on that plot, so it looks like it fits, but it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because you don't actually see the guy walk from the 11th tee to the 11th green to the 12th tee. So
Exactly.
yeah, I suppose the only thing is that if you're looking around the course, you're not going to see the things that you would normally see alongside the hole that you're playing. So in other words, if the 12th sits alongside the 6th, for example, you wouldn't see that if you were playing it from a different location on the course.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's I suppose it's taken a bit of a thought process to try and figure out how exactly I'm going to do it. But I'm hoping that when it's all said and done, that nobody will actually notice it's even that way.
People are going to be looking out for that now.
That's it, yeah. But by creating these, like, so what's going to happen is I'll have the 11th green there, and what I'll do is I'll create this fake 12th hole. So the tee box will be there, the trees will be there, and it'll be like, right, well, that's the next hole, so it's going to run that way.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is they'll end up on the other side of the plot, and then when we rejoin back at the 14th tee, well, I'll have like the 13th green and all the trees and everything there, so it looks like it flows in naturally. Now, thankfully, there is like, if you know,
there's a lot of trees at Wentworth though, so
that's exactly what I was going to say. There's a lot of trees there, so I think I can get away with it.
You can disguise it a little bit, yeah.
Exactly.
So, how many courses did you create on TGC 1?
I created like 3, and I'll be 100% honest with you, they were all rubbish. They were all rubbish. I did like 2 fantasy courses, and I did my home club. but at the time, I wasn't like I was playing the game, but I wasn't really like involved in the forum side, or you know, I just played the game. I didn't know any of this kind of stuff existed. Um,
So you
so
were
now
more of
I
a
suppose,
player than a creator at that point in time.
yeah. And to be
Yeah.
honest, I just turned it on and played courses. I never really got into the whole TGC tours or anything like that. I
Yeah.
literally just turned it on and played the game, and that's kind of all it was to me at the time. When I got TGC2, then I came across all the communities and all the forums, and then I suppose just kind of decided to have a go at trying to design courses and stuff like that, and over time got better and better with it.
So do you see yourself as an amalgamation of player and creator, or are you more of a creator than a player? Where does the passion lie?
Oh, I'm definitely both. I love playing as much as I love to design. I don't play as much as I would love to because of the amount of time it actually takes up to design courses. Like I have my own society that I run, the RCR World Tour. Just plugging that in right there. And
If
the
anybody's out there looking for a society to join, that's the one for you.
that's the one, and that's kind of where I decided to go for the RCRs. Was that I set up the RCR tour, and I was just thinking to myself, you know, I want more and more courses to choose from. So that's why I went down the RCR route on it. Um, but yeah, that's like I play as much as I can. I play TGC tours the odd time. I'm in the World Tour, but I haven't played in about 4 months. Played my first tournament in 4 months today. Played reasonably well, so we'll see how that goes.
And I take it you play with the tour clubs, don't you?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
play with the tour clubs.
yeah.
I started with the player clubs only because when I was watching some YouTube videos and stuff, everyone was using player clubs, and they kind of threw this stigma around the tour clubs as being like the hardest thing ever, and you know, just kind of scared me off it a little bit. But you know, it wasn't all that bad.
Well, if you, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that if I think back now, I don't think I could ever go back to player clubs. But the first time I went to tour clubs, I had the most shocking experience. And I think it was more down to the course that I tried to cut my teeth on when I first tried the tour clubs. And it was probably not a
Yeah,
good idea to choose that course. So I went back to the player clubs. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to play some offline rounds, do 5 rounds on the bounce with the tour clubs, and you're quite right. It wasn't as scary a monster as I originally anticipated, and I don't think I could ever go back now because I don't think the player clubs would offer enough of a challenge.
yeah, that's it. Like what I found when I first moved was that, like, obviously the margin for error changes. I remember the very first round I played, I had to aim everything like 20 yards left of where I wanted it to go just to counterbalance that. But I think I shot +1 in my first round with tour clubs, and then from there it was fairly straightforward from that point.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so this is another one where you're not playing over the green, but it's right next to the tee box on the left hand side, and I take it that's the green we've just come off.
That's the green we've just come off, the 10th green there. That actually happens quite a bit um, later on. So I think the 13th, which is the par 5, we're actually going to play across. So our second, maybe your third, depending on what way that wind is going to be. We're actually going to hit kind of alongside the tee box, and then we're going to come back up to it and play across. Then you're going to have the 18th then as well. You're kind of going to play across that 17th green as you head up towards the clubhouse.
So how can they do that? Is it because it was a restricted size of real estate at the time, or is it because, I mean, I take it this is quite an old course.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's cheap. That's
Yeah,
really what it comes down to. It's cheaper. You
can't
know, so
spread it
it
out as
ends up.
much. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's just a smaller amount of land to work with, so um, it was just easier. Into the rough. It was just easier for them to work with in terms of the plot of land they got with. So I suppose you don't really see it on every links course, but it does happen quite a bit in in a couple of Irish courses. Ballyboyne it happens. Um, La Hinch it happens a little bit, but other than that, it's not that big a deal, or not that big a thing, or not a common thing that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've got a course local to me. I mean, I'm in Northampton, so I'm sort of smack bang in the middle of England, and I've got numerous courses within. I mean, decent courses within an hour's drive of me. I mean, I've got
Yeah.
the Brabazon at the Belfry within an hour.
I
I've
was just
got
thinking, yeah, you have
that
close
was
to you.
that was one of the courses I did on TGC1. And I've got Woburn within an hour as well. So
Lovely
it's
course.
I don't work too far from Woburn, so they're literally just down the road from me if you're talking about driving distance. So, but in my local area, within 5 minutes drive, I've got 4 golf courses. So there's quite a few around this area. But I suppose one of the questions I always like to ask when I speak to creators is, from TGC1 to TGC2, what was probably the single biggest thing that made designing a whole lot better in the second version of the game?
Ooh, how do you choose?
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, what things made it better?
So definitely the splines, or spleens. I don't know how people pronounce it. I pronounce
I
it
say
splines.
splines, yeah.
Just in terms of laying out the hole, it just makes it so much easier than having to work with the brushes. I think the brushes gave you a very inconsistent, and sometimes kind of jaggedy fairways and from times. So that was definitely a huge help. Elevated water, so basically, you don't have to rely on the water level itself. If you're up a mountain, you can have water up there, that was massive, depending on obviously the course that you're creating.
Oh,
Um,
I almost got a hole in one.
oh, there we go. And the third would have to be the fuzzy sculpting brushes. They are absolutely, like, you can't design a course without them. I mean, well, you can, but you can't design a really nice looking one without them for sure.
So,
So they were a massive help.
are you? I mean, I always thought it was a bit of a Marmite feature, and the jury's still out for me on water and waterfalls, because unless it's really well done, it looks rubbish.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think it is a bit of a Marmite feature. I think you either love it or hate it. What's your thoughts on water? Because some of the courses, or most of the courses you create, other than the oceans or the sea, there's not a great deal of water.
Yeah, like the Emirates had its water, but at the end of the day, like those were saltwater lakes. They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
Um,
It's not running water, is it?
no, nothing like that at all. Druid's Glen, I think, is the only one that has little kind of, call them waterfalls, but just the water kind of falls over the crest down into another level of water. I don't like the way they're done. I think it could be done better. I'm not too sure how to do it better, but I just think it looks very cheap and just thrown together. I'd like to see it done in a way where it actually kind of looks like it flows naturally or something. It really looks out of place.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I say. I think, for me, I mean, they made a big song and dance about it and elevated water when they were promoting the game for creators. And then looking at it and looking what people have done, there's never really anything that's really blown me away where I think, you know what, somebody has done an absolutely cracking job with that. And I mean, I've tried on the course that I created. I've tried, and and I spent a lot of time doing it, but it just looks, some of the edges on the water are too rigid. It's too restrictive. God, you put your ball like literally right next to mine. I had to look down for a minute because I thought, hang on a sec, I've got 2 balls there. Yeah, that was. This is an interesting hole because you can't reach that second bit of the fairway from the drive unless, I would imagine, the wind behind and quite strong. And this second shot, this is a strange looking fairway.
It's a very strange fairway. If you hit circle there for a second and we take a look at the overview here, this was one I suppose I put my own little flair onto it. I do it from time to time when I feel like the mechanics of the game make the hole or the course a little easier than it should be. So if we look there, we can see where our tee box is down in the bottom left hand corner.
Yeah.
But the actual real tee box is the one that's about 20 yards in front of it to the
to the right.
just kind of, yeah, exactly. And what that does is having that tee box there, it means we cover or we carry the rough very, very easy, and it just makes that second shot much, much simpler. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to use, that's actually a tee box for the 10th hole that runs, I suppose runs from, the top of the screen down.
Yeah.
I robbed that tee box essentially to try and create that difficulty of whether, do you go for that kind of taking it over the rough or not, and essentially it's only reachable if you have a downwind. So what I wanted to do was just make this either a very, very, I suppose, a risk reward shot at the end of the day. If you want to have a crack at it, have a go at it, but if you lay up, then you're not going to get there in two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to get there in two, not with 300 odd yards to go now.
That's it. So that was just a little touch that I put onto it myself. I don't do it often. I try not to, because again, I'm trying to keep everything as real as possible. But if I feel like something's just, you know what, I don't really like that, I will occasionally. Someone's going to shoot me for this now, but I do tend to just throw in my own little bit here or there if I feel it needs it.
That's I think that's called designer's privilege.
Yeah, that's what we'll call it. To be honest, there's not too many Irish here on the game, so I'll get away with it.
So, TGC 2019, not too far away. What you've seen so far, which, let's be fair, is not been a lot.
It's actually been very, very quiet. This early access is supposed to be out this month, and I'm not hearing anything on it. So,
well, it's been pushed back, hasn't it? It's been pushed back to May. Yeah, there was.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so it was supposed to be out April, but it's been pushed back to May.
Okay, but you know what? I think that's good.
It's, yeah, I think I would rather have something that's going to offer less frustration, because rushing something out the door means it's going to be more frustration. But the thing is, I don't know what their policy is. I can't believe I've just rolled over the hole.
Ooh, yeah. I just rolled past it as well.
I don't know what the policy is going to be on early access either. Is it going to be open to everybody? Or are they going to do what they did on TGC 1 and only give early access to PC users? I mean, it wasn't on the console to start with anyway, so PC was the only option you had. But can they really afford to ignore their console users now? So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's very, very curious. Like, I suppose with the console, I mean, I don't know how hard or how easy it is to go and release something like a beta or an early access version on a console. I'm assuming it's way easier to do it on the likes of Steam as it is to do it with Sony or with Microsoft. So I'd assume they're just going to go PC on it.
Yeah.
And we're just going to have to sit and wait, which, do you know what? I don't, like, I'm okay with that. Like, this game has given me hours and hours and hours of entertainment. Like,
I've had more than my money's worth. Yeah,
it's for sure.
Yeah, I think most people. Yeah, most people. I mean, I've had my frustrations with the game, and it's been well documented and well spoken about. And I had my frustrations, and I gave it a rest. I gave it a rest for probably 6 months. But now I'm back on it and I'm enjoying it, and I'm not taking it too seriously, and I'm just saying, you know what, it's just a golf game, and I'm just posting videos on YouTube. nobody's getting hurt or nobody's taking offence to anything. So it's I'm just enjoying it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that kind of that attitude towards it is very common lately. There's definitely an awful lot less negative or kind of aggression towards how the game is this, or the game is that, or anything like that. It's just everyone's kind of accepted it for what it is right now,
Yeah,
because they know that there's going to be something on the horizon, hopefully within the next few months, and they're just kind of like, well, I mean, we can still play the game, we can still enjoy it with our friends, we can still design courses. It's relatively as stable as it's ever been, so at the end of the day, if we're still here now, then why not just keep going for the time being?
yeah. I mean, I suppose for me as a player, the things that frustrate me still are the occasional swing glitches. In other words, if you're standing on the tee box too long and the guy starts doing some kind of an animation like a wiggle or a readjustment or whatever, and then you try to swing the club, it you get a swing glitch. Now, if you
Yeah,
catch that early enough, it's not too bad, and you sort of accept it and you move on. The other thing that the lack of variation in game modes, which it seems like they have addressed to a certain degree with the skins and the alternate shot, is something that's been a bugbear of mine from the very first game. The thing that kept me absolutely hooked on the EA Sports franchise was the alternate shot. We used to have a group of guys that used to get online. We used to decide who was playing with who. We used to decide what course we were playing, and we really used to just rip it up and have a good laugh playing alternate shot. And I'm so glad that they're bringing it to the game. The only thing that I'm concerned about is the lag that you get on the real-time play. Like, for example, when you play turn-based at the moment, is that you can play your shot and I only see the result of that shot 5 seconds later.
yeah,
I'm hearing your reaction real time, but I'm not seeing the result of that reaction. And I find that quite frustrating. And the funny thing is that a lot of the guys that used to work on the Tiger Woods series now work at HB Studios. So it's very difficult to believe that they can't encompass that technology or that development within their game.
yeah, definitely. I can completely agree. It is really frustrating because when you're playing, like, I suppose once or twice a week I get together with 3 or 4 of the guys, and we just go off and we might play a society or just play around somewhere, and he'll have putted, and then you're just he's missed it, but you haven't even seen the ball move
Yeah,
yet. It's still stuck there, and you're like, well, I already know now. It's what it's like. It's like, it's like as if, right, an episode of Game of Thrones was out last night and you didn't watch it, but you were saving it till today. But then some asshole comes along and tells you all about it. That is essentially what that is.
yeah, that's a
It's
really good
annoying.
analogy as well.
It's so annoying, and you're just like, well, okay. And then if they make it, then you're like, oh, now I have to watch it go in after he's already celebrated about it.
Yeah, it is, and the thing is that I can't believe that is that difficult to do. Every other game on the planet, when you're playing multiplayer, and I'm talking the likes of, all the first-person shooters, when you're playing cooperatively with 10, 12 other people, and you're seeing their actions real time, how is that any different to what we're trying to do here playing golf?
I really don't know. Like, I mean, it must be the way in which they've actually set up this turn order system. Like, to me, it's like it's essentially not multiplayer. It's what it to me what it's doing is it's like an advanced Ghost.
Yeah, yeah,
And what they're doing is they've just recorded your gameplay, and then they're just playing it back like a highlight reel type thing. Um, so, uh, like, maybe that's the reason why it doesn't work properly, because it essentially isn't what we all think. I'm going to try and not hit another fast swing. Perfect, perfect. We'll take that.
Okay. No, I had to restart the recording because I think it timed out. I think an hour is the most it can record, so I've just restarted it. It's not a problem. Yeah, I mean the other thing that is, it's not frustrating, but I mean I like the fact that you can add the ghost balls in there, but the downside to adding the ghost balls in is that the ghost ball you're playing has the weather at the time they were playing it. So in other words, if they're playing the first tee with a headwind of 14 miles an hour and you're playing the first tee with a tailwind of 12 mile an hour, the results are going to be very different. And it's effectively, even though you're playing off the same tee box and you're playing the same pin set, the results are going to be very different.
Yeah, that, like, to be honest, they've like from a society perspective, like they have it coded in that, you know, the weather's all going to be the same, or, you know, 1 mile an hour out depending on the time or whatever you play. So it's you roughly play the same course as everyone else. And I don't understand why they can't do that. Like, if you put a ghost into your thing, why you can't choose to play the same conditions they did. I mean, I remember playing around in, I can't remember the course, but I was hitting driver and I must have been about 100 yards behind him. It was one of these fantasy courses with massive elevation. I was just thinking to myself, why am I even bothering? This fella here is going to shoot like 16 under par or something, and there's me trudging along 3 or 4 under, trying to keep up, like, and it's just very deflating.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're quite right. I mean, even if they gave you a choice, so in other words, you said, as soon as you add a ghost ball in, I mean, the downside to it is that if you add more than one ghost ball in, whose weather do you choose? But if you add one ghost ball in, it should give you an option. It should pop up on the screen saying, do you want to use your current live weather, or do you want to use the same weather that was applied to the ghost ball? I know which one I would choose. I'd choose the weather that the ghost ball had, because you're going to be at least playing off the same, you know, it's going to be a level playing field.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way I would like to do it. But I do see, like, where it can run into some issues with, you know, multiple ghosts and stuff like that, because then you're going to have 2 people playing one weather and another playing in another. So the crossover, I suppose, is the issue there. And I suppose rather than it get messy, they'd rather keep it clean cut, but not clean cut. You know, it all depends on how you look at it, I suppose, in terms of perspective. But I suppose there is reasons for why they do certain things.
Yeah. I'm actually quite surprised. Have you had a look at the scorecard, by the way?
I have. There's 1 in it, and I have this to keep it 1 in it.
We haven't shot a single bogey through 16 holes whilst we're actually talking while we're playing. It's actually quite impressive, to be honest with you. Yeah, there's still 1 in it. You've maintained that 1-shot lead with 2 holes to play.
And we're going to have some fun here on 17.
Oh, so that is definitely, with a tailwind, that's a drivable hole.
Oh, it's drivable without it.
Really?
All you've got to do... Oh, yeah. Okay, let me see. Where's the driver?
I've got a 3 mile an hour wind coming off the left.
Yeah, it's drivable, because what it's going to do is it's going to kick either at the top of the hill or on the way down, and it's just going to send it, like, more than likely, if you have a downwind, there's a very good likelihood you'll end up near the 18th tee box.
Yeah.
If you don't go into that bunker.
Yeah.
But this is definitely drivable, and it's one that when I play this course and I watch some ghost balls, not everyone goes for it, and I'm like, why? Like, it's right there. Take it on. I mean, it's not a guaranteed birdie either. I suppose that pin is relatively favourable, but there's one, I think, is it pin set 3 or 4, where it's actually on, I suppose, the tee box side of the green, and man, is that tough to get a birdie. So you've gone for it, and so have I.
Alright, so I've just missed, the kick sent me left and I've just missed it, but I'm in the nice flat area on the left hand side.
Right there beside you.
Oh yeah.
anything you can do, I can do better.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do. How do we want to play this? Pressure's on.
So are you a fan of the chip shot, or are you not a fan of the chip shot?
Oh yeah, definitely. I suppose when I play, I have a system for how I play. I tend to, what I do is I focus in on certain distances. Now, obviously, when I'm just out playing for the crack, it doesn't bother me. But when I'm playing like tournaments and stuff like that, like I'll have, like I try to leave myself a certain distance to play that certain shot. So I kind of focus everything in around the pitch shot and the chip shot and stuff like that. But I Ooh, that was close. I wouldn't use a chip shot from the bunker. I do see quite an awful lot of people
I
use
use
that.
that quite a lot. Yeah, I use it quite a
Yeah.
lot. I think it just keeps it low, and I think the margin for error is so small on
Mm,
the flop shot that a lot of people, and the thing is that's something they massively changed from TGC1. They recognise the fact that people do did used to master the flop shot, and I got to be honest, I used to be pretty damn good at the flop shot in TGC1,
yeah.
and they addressed that by making the margin for error very very small, so you end up with a very fast or a slow or very slow. I suppose we're on the 18th now, so I suppose most people will want to know what clubs you carry in your bag.
Okay, so what I tend to do is, and I haven't really changed it. I've actually decided several times I would change it, but never did. So I have the usual driver and 3 wood. Now, depending on the course I play, I might flip between a 5 wood and a 4 wood. The
Okay.
4 wood just gives me that extra bit of a cushion, because what I have in behind that 5 wood is I have a 2 iron, and the 2 iron is like my favorite, but yes, my most hated club in the bag, depending on how it's going for me. It flies about 226 into the breeze, and then and then downwind it could go for like 250. So it's just that gap in yardage is perfect.
You know
So
what? It's actually interesting that you say that, because you're the only other person that I know that carries a 2 iron. I carry a 2 iron.
I think they're just a brilliant club, because there's an awful lot of par threes you'll play that are over. They could be in around the 220, and sometimes if you're into the wind like that, a 4 iron's just not getting there.
Yeah.
And I don't carry a 3 iron. I have that 2 iron there specifically for par threes, for short par fives, and like I played around earlier, and I mean I was sticking it into 3 or 4 feet with some shots, and I'm like, if I didn't have that there, that would have been 20 yards this way or whatever. So it works really, really well for me. Other
Yeah.
than that, it's plain sail. It's pitch and wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, and 4 to 9 iron as well.
Okay. Yeah, because I've dropped the only clubs I have in my the only woods I have in my bag are the driver and the 3 wood, and then
Mm.
I have two down to 9, but then I have pitching wedge. Pitching wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, and gap wedge. So I
Okay.
have the 4 wedges, which gives me, from the shorter distances with the pitch shot, quite a variety as well. And it also gives me, when you're playing with very little wind and you want to bring those shots in, those 85 to 100 yards, and get them to stop on a dime, it gives you
Yeah.
those really high shots.
Yeah, definitely. I used to kind of swap between the gap wedge and the sand wedge for a period of time, but I just found myself that I was always leaving myself in around 100 yards, and I was just like, I have to have to just stick with the sand wedge on that,
Yeah.
for whatever way I was playing. So that's kind of why I went with that. But um, no, favorite club in the bag is definitely that 2 iron. But some days not so much.
So what did you end up shooting? A 10 under?
Oh, that could be birdie for 11.
Ooh.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, Around 11 under par for a 60.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you'll take that any day of the week, especially on your own
Oh,
course.
absolutely.
Mind you, you'd expect it
That's it.
on your own course.
That's it. Like I was watching the video of Druids Glen, and I was like, "Oh my God, he had to choose that one." Like everyone's looking at me, going, "Oh, this is a guy who designs. He obviously doesn't play the game."
You know what the funny thing is that it's so difficult because you know, looking down the list, there was just probably a dozen times that you played the course. So I think, as a general rule, I take the latest one that you'd actually played, or the last last time that you'd actually played it on a specific pin set and tee box. So yeah, I think it's just luck of the draw, but.
That's it, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I thank you, sir. It has been an absolute pleasure to catch up and speak to you for the first time, and we will be sure to catch up again and have another round. Perhaps we'll do the same thing again early doors when TGC 2019 comes out, and we can either get a round in and we get some early impressions from a creator perspective, and you know, have 18 holes while we're doing that. But I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to encourage anybody out there that hasn't played any of Corehill's courses to jump on and play his courses. As you can see, you know, he spends an awful lot of time and effort putting these courses together, and I think he definitely deserves the plays that he gets. And you know, if you guys want to chuck them into your society rounds or whatever the case may be, then I'm sure that it would be greatly appreciated.
Cheers for having me, Tim, and thanks very much. I've kept you very long. Us Irish we don't do things quickly at all. We chat too much.
No, not at all.
Half an hour for sure.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and yeah, for anybody that's watching this video, if you've enjoyed this and you want to see more of this, hit that like button, leave some comments in the box below. I do have another creator lined up. He commented as well on after the previous video where I said I was probably going to be doing something like this, so that's another one lined up for next week, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But if you want to leave some comments, if you are a creator and you want to do a similar type thing, let me know. If you'd like to hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this, then please do so. But until next time, guys, Corehill, thanks very much for joining me. If you'd like to say goodbye to everybody, all right, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye now.